Hello everyone and welcome. Thank you for being here on the channel, where we explore fascinating stories, deep lore, and hidden histories from the Lord of the Rings. If you enjoy this kind of content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. We are still a small channel, and your support truly makes a difference. In today's video, we will dive into a documentary-style analysis of one of the most legendary places in Middle-earth, Khazad-dûm, later known as Moria. From its founding by Durin the Deathless, to its rise as the greatest Dwarven kingdom ever built, and finally to its long fall into darkness, this is a complete journey through the glory and tragedy of the Longbeards. Settle in and join us as we uncover the full history of Durin, the dwarves of Khazad-dûm, and the shadow that would come to be known as Durin's Bane. Durin, known among the dwarves as Durin the Deathless, awakened beneath Mount Gundabad and began a journey that would shape the history of his people forever. Traveling south along the western side of the Misty Mountains, Durin eventually came to the valley of Azanilbazar. There, beside a still lake later named Keldzarum, also called Mirrormere, he saw a crown of 7 stars reflected above his own head in the water. Taking this as a sign of destiny, Durin entered the mountain and founded Khazad-dûm, the mansions of the dwarves. Near the shores of Keldzarum, the dwarves raised the Durin stone in honor of that vision, marking the birthplace of their greatest kingdom. From the very beginning, Khazad-dûm was built not only as a dwelling, but as a monument to dwarven mastery. Vast halls were carved deep into the stone, connected by countless passages, stairways, and bridges. Among the most important defenses was the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, a narrow crossing designed so that any invading force would be forced into a deadly bottleneck, exposed to attacks from the dwarves above. Over the centuries, the Longbeards expanded Khazad-dûm into an immense underground realm. Measured from the level of the West Gate, the city stretched across 7 levels upward and 7 levels downward. The western portions served as the heart of the city, filled with halls and chambers, while the eastern reaches delved ever deeper into the mountains as mines. The wealth drawn from these depths, especially mithril, brought Khazad-dûm fame across Middle-earth. So renowned was this kingdom that even the elves of Beleriand heard of it during the First Age. High above, on the peak of Silvertine, which the dwarves called Zaraxagil, they built Durin's tower, accessible only by the endless stair rising from the depths of the mountain. Before the end of the First Age, Durin died, but his people endured. And after the destruction of Beleriand, the dwarves of Nagrod and Belagos joined their kin in Khazad-dûm, bringing with them unmatched skill in stonecraft and metalwork, ushering the kingdom into its greatest age of prosperity. As Khazad-dûm reached the height of its power, its influence spread far beyond the Misty Mountains. The mines expanded ever eastward so deeply that one could travel beneath the entire width of the range. This period marked the true golden age of the kingdom, when wealth, population, and craftsmanship were unmatched among the dwarves of Middle-earth. It was during this time that the West Gate of Khazad-dûm, later known as the Doors of Durin, was created. These doors were forged sometime between the years 750 and 1500 of the Second Age by Narvi, the greatest dwarven craftsman of his time, working in close friendship with Celebrimbor of Irigen. Narvi shaped the doors so perfectly that, when closed, they could not be distinguished from the surrounding mountain stone. Celebrimbor added inscriptions and designs using Ithilden, a material visible only under starlight or moonlight. Ithilden itself was made by the elves using mithril, the most precious substance drawn from the depths of Khazad-dûm. The symbols upon the doors of Durin told a story of unity and hope. There were the hammer and anvil of Durin, the crown and 7 stars recalling the vision that led to the founding of the kingdom, 2 trees representing the High Elves, and a single star marking the House of Fainur, the lineage of Celebrimbor. The letters of Celebrimbor and Narvi were inscribed beside these symbols, along with Durin's mark near the base. The inscription above the doors reflected a time of peace, when the words, "Speak, friend, and enter," truly described the open friendship between the dwarves of Khazad-dûm and the elves of Irigen. In those days, the doors were often left open, allowing free travel and trade between the two realms. But this age of cooperation would not last. Sauron came against Irigen in the year 1697 of the Second Age, destroying the Elven kingdom and killing Celebrimbor in his search for the Rings of Power. After aiding Elrond against Sauron's forces, the dwarves withdrew into Khazad-dûm and sealed the doors of Durin, cutting themselves off from Eriador. Before the fall of Irigen, Galadriel and her daughter Celebrimbor had passed safely through Khazad-dûm to reach the Elven lands to the east, protected by their dwarven allies. Yet as war spread and orcs returned to the mountains, the friendship between elves and dwarves slowly faded, and the shadow over Khazad-dûm began to grow. As the Second Age continued, orcs began to reclaim the Misty Mountains, bringing renewed conflict to the dwarves. Mount Gundabad, once a sacred gathering place for the houses of the dwarves, fell into orc hands and became a stronghold of their power. Though not used as a permanent residence by the Longbeards, Gundabad had long held deep cultural significance, and its loss marked a turning point. During this time, Gundabad even endured through the reign of the Witch King of Angmar and the wars that plagued the north. Little is recorded of the dwarves of Khazad-dûm during the later centuries of the Second Age. They sent forces to aid the last alliance of elves and men, but otherwise remained largely withdrawn within their mountain realm. Yet the wealth of Khazad-dûm continued to grow, driven by relentless mining. Nearly 2,000 years into the Third Age, the dwarves delved ever deeper in search of mithril, unaware of the danger that lay buried far below. In the year 1980 of the Third Age, their fate was sealed. A Balrog of Morgoth, hidden since the ancient wars, was awakened in the depths of Khazad-dûm. The creature unleashed terror and destruction throughout the halls, killing King Durin VI. From that moment, the Balrog became known among the dwarves as Durin's Bane. Though they hoped to hold their kingdom, their resistance did not last. In the following year, King Nine I was slain, and the dwarves were forced to abandon Khazad-dûm entirely. Once the greatest dwarven kingdom in Middle-earth, Khazad-dûm was left empty and silent, its vast halls swallowed by shadow. Around this time, the elves of Lorien began to call the place by a new name. Moria, the Black Pit. For nearly 5 centuries, the Balrog was the only known inhabitant of the ruined city. Then, in 2480 of the Third Age, orcs returned, creeping into the abandoned halls and taking control of its upper levels and deep passages. More than 300 years later, after Smaug drove the dwarves from Erebor, war once again came to Moria. Thror, grandfather of Thorin, entered Khazad-dûm alone through the west gate and was slain by the orc chieftain Azog. His body was defiled, bearing Azog's name, and this act ignited a brutal conflict that would echo through the mountains for years to come. The murder of Thror did not go unanswered. When the news was carried back by Nar, the dwarves were filled with fury, and Thrain gathered his people for war. Messengers were sent to the other houses of the dwarves, and soon a great host was formed. Thus began the War of the Dwarves and Orcs. A long and merciless conflict fought almost entirely beneath the misty mountains. From Mount Gundabad in the north to the River Gladden in the south, the dwarves hunted down orcs wherever they could be found. Though little detail is known of every battle, it is said that the dwarves fought with unmatched ferocity in the tunnels and mines, where their knowledge of stone and darkness gave them a deadly advantage. One by one, orc strongholds were destroyed, and the war slowly drove southward. After years of bloodshed, the final confrontation came in the year 2799 of the Third Age, before the east gate of Khazad-dûm, in the valley of Azanilbazar. There, the dwarves of the Iron Hills arrived to reinforce Thrain's forces, and the battle that followed was devastating to both sides. The valley ran red with blood, and the cost in lives was terrible. During the fighting, Edain Ironfoot faced Azog himself and struck him down, ending the orc chieftain's reign of terror. Victory, however, brought no joy. When the battle was done, Thrain wished to enter Khazad-dûm and reclaim the ancient kingdom at last. It was Dain who stopped him. Having looked into the darkness within the gates, Dain had seen Durin's Bane and knew that reclaiming the city would be futile. He declared that Khazad-dûm was still cursed, and the other dwarven lords agreed. Though the war had been won, Moria was left untouched, and the dwarves departed in sorrow. Some returned to the Blue Mountains, others to the Iron Hills, leaving Khazad-dûm once more to silence and shadow. Long afterward, sometime between the years 2845 and 2950, Gandalf himself entered Moria in search of Thrain, but he too departed through the west gate, leaving the Black Pit to its darkness. After the Battle of Azanilbazar, Khazad-dûm remained untouched, but the story of Moria was not yet finished. Following the Battle of 5 Armies, the power of the orcs in the Misty Mountains was greatly diminished. In the year 2989 of the Third Age, Balin, son of Fundin, led an expedition from the Blue Mountains in an attempt to reclaim the ancient kingdom. At first, the effort was successful. The dwarves slew many orcs, secured the western portions of Khazad-dûm, and recovered long-lost treasures, including Durin's axe. For 5 years, Balin ruled as Lord of Moria. That hope ended in tragedy. On November 10, 2994, Balin went alone to Mirrormere, the same lake where Durin had once seen the crown of stars. There, he was slain by an orc archer. Though the orc was killed in return, it was only the beginning. A great orc host poured into Khazad-dûm, overwhelming the colony. Fierce fighting followed in the second hall, and the surviving dwarves retreated deeper into the city. Balin was laid to rest in the chamber of Mazarbul, where he had once ruled. The last of the colony made a final stand in that same chamber, recording their fate in the Book of Mazarbul. None survived. Moria fell silent once more, its fate unknown to the outside world. In January of 3019, the Fellowship of the Ring passed through Khazad-dûm. Within its halls, they discovered the truth of Balin's end. They were attacked by orcs and a cave troll, and at last Durin's bane revealed itself. Gandalf faced the Balrog on the bridge of Khazad-dûm, breaking the bridge and casting the creature into the depths. Though Gandalf also fell, he pursued the Balrog to Zaraxagil and destroyed it after days of battle. With the fall of Sauron and the earlier death of the Balrog, the shadow over Moria was finally lifted. In the Fourth Age, Durin VII, descendant of Dane Ironfoot, led the Longbeards back to Khazad-dûm. There the dwarves reclaimed their ancient halls, and for a time the hammers rang again beneath the mountains, fulfilling the last chapter in the long history of Khazad-dûm.